Hey guys, it's Dave. I have been mulling over the concept of growing a plant to its full potential. It's something that you and I have heard on videos dozens of times, maybe hundreds of times if you've been on YouTube for a while. I have a lot of big plants, potentially big plants, that I grow small, and I'm doing it on purpose. So what I'm not talking about, let's put some qualifiers on this first. I'm not talking about plants like my Hoya globulosa cow bong. This was gifted to me as a cutting that I chopped and propped. It hasn't taken off yet, so we aren't talking about plants that are just taking their sweet bleeping time to grow up into a plant. Then we have plants like my Hoya Boadi, which I tried to take out with dry rot. This is small because it came back from one node, one leaf, and one petiole that looked like it was just about to give up the ghost. Hoya Sunshine is much the same. It was on a shelf. I wasn't giving it the appropriate water as it turned into a much, much larger plant in a very small vessel. It too was a victim of dry rot. It's a small plant because it is making a terrific comeback, but this will be grown to its full glory in good time. I'm also not talking about plants that have been really popular that I've chopped and propped, either to sell or just to give away, and that's been keeping the plant small. Not those. Not anything that has been grown in these death containers with the silicone bottoms. I did a video on this recently. Every single plant that I had growing in these, and it was a bunch of plants, has had to be started over. Every single one. So we are not talking about these. Then finally, anything coming back from pests, let's just randomly pick, I don't know, root mealies. We're not talking about that. Boy, we're sure as hell not talking about that right now. We are talking about plants like my Monstera siltepecano, which I did a propagation test with and potted up in here. I've had this as a huge plant that I really chopped back, gave away a bunch of it, kept this for myself. This is one of those plants that could be grown up a moss pole. You could get huge fenestrated leaves, provided you have the conditions. To do that, I think you lose some of what makes this such a really special plant in my collection, that glaucous silver leaf color. I think this is darling as is, and when you grow it up a moss pole, get those large leaves, they become a dull green. I don't think it's quite as magical. And, well, we'll get to moss poles in a minute, but I think what makes this plant special for me is that in chopping it back, it keeps it fuller. I love hanging plants in general, and again, it's just a very pretty plant, and it's, in air quotes, juvenile form. A really lovely, common, cheap plant. Everyone should have one of these, right? Same can be said for the Epiprimnum Cebu Blue. My plant focus on this one is one of my most viewed on the history of my channel, which doesn't go, it only goes back to April, but still, it's still one of the most popular. You saw a much larger version of this plant, but where I chose to grow it this summer, since I'm just now making somewhere to hang some plants. I wanted it to grow well and have its best chance to get the most light, so I wasn't able to accommodate really long vines without them getting super leggy, so really long internodal spacing. That's not really attractive. So what I did is just grow it from here to here with really good light, and then I didn't worry about the back of it so much, since I will have it hanging somewhere where it probably won't get light on this side, or if I hang it in a way that I can spin it, then it will grow better then. And the easiest way to fill out that back will just be to keep cutting the vines, and it will push out new growth points, most likely. And most likely will branch out here. So another plant that I think, when this grows up a moss pole, it loses this really simplistic, no, not simplistic, simple beauty. I'm simplistic beauty. This is simple beauty. Since the entire collection is 2 plants, I'm going to show you all of my Syngonium today. But first I want to talk about that concept of growing a plant to its full potential. You can't do it inside. You cannot grow a plant to its full potential in your house. I grew up in Florida. I have seen what a golden pothos can do growing up a tree. They are enormous, massive, massive leaves. Can't recreate that here with my 9-foot ceiling. Can't be done. So that means this concept of full potential, biggest leaves you can in the house. I am here to tell you that the full potential of any plant I grow is to look beautiful and bring me happiness and to fit well. So I do not want a bunch of moss poles hogging up the windows where I'm just looking at the back of them. Y'all know I don't like moss poles. I get it. You don't have to spend any of your time in the comments explaining the positives of a moss pole. I have a Kujang's flame growing on one. But do I see the front of those beautiful leaves very often? When I water it. When I take it down from the table it's on to water it. So that's not that great. If you don't have forward-facing plants, forward to you, and lighting, for me, it's not that great. Now, some of you have that set up and it works fantastically, but it doesn't for me. So full potential of any plant is to grow well, to thrive, look great. That's what counts to me. And this fits the bill, and also fits the bill of incredibly easy to grow. Really beautiful, very, very, very dark leaves if you can refrain from giving it too much light, which for a couple of years I didn't do. It did not grow well. I put it in a little corner shelf for my wife in a very dark room with an east window. It's been doing great. Has those blood red backs on it. Really a gorgeous plant. And I keep this trimmed down, short and tight. It doesn't need to be big. It's a small stand. Perfect choice for that. One that is downstairs, I've shown this one on the channel before, is the Syngonium Frosted Heart. Now, yes, this is a little bare down in the stem. This is a pretty old plant, actually. And, at some point it'll have to be started over. But it's just growing in my normal aroid mix, Hoya mix, everything I grow mix, and looks really nice, again, as long as you don't give it too much light. But on a moss pole, well, one, it wouldn't really fit under my shelves, which, from the bottom of this base to here, about that much room. So I would always have to take it down to water it from the top, from that moss pole. And the moss pole's ugly. They're wide. It would totally overwhelm the really classic, beautiful plant this is, just being staked for support, because it will flop over. And I think, for me, this is just fine. And these smaller leaves keep that really beautiful silvery sheen. It's a lovely plant. It used to be pretty expensive. Probably like all things plant now, or at least plants. Supplies are not any less expensive. This probably isn't expensive anymore. Lovely plant. I love keeping it small. Right now, I would just briefly like to acknowledge one of my viewers out there who thought I should be wearing funnier hats, not, I guess, just the boring hats I always wear in my videos. It's called Primal Branding for your information. So she made this hat. This is a handmade hat, and it's by what I have determined to be the best color, which is purple. So we have a bright purple flower and then a lavender hat, which may not come across on camera, I realize. It's adorable. I love it. I wear it, and my dog thinks I have a toy on top of my head because I am known to wear dog toys on top of my head. At the risk of me not being taken seriously, I'll just go back to my boring old hat. Now, I have 3 philodendron that I could show, all heteroecium. So I've got just the plain green one. I've got the Brazil, which many of you have seen. Huge plant, but I could squeeze it in as a small plant in the sense that I have probably cut back like 75% of that plant. But I'm going to show you my lemon lime philodendron here. Really pretty plant, a nice pop of color here. I restored our 1918 bathroom, and the paint we picked throughout the entire house is the color palette that would be appropriate to when this house was built. So it's kind of a baby blue. And I thought, man, this is going to be such a nice pop against that blue. And then my wife said, denies it now, like everything. But she said, that's really ugly. Basically, why would you own this if you could have a variegated, golden pothos, for instance? Again, she denies it. She also denies that she wouldn't let me buy super glue tape because she was afraid she would come home and find me taped to the ceiling. That is a direct quote. I don't care how often she denies that. This is one of those plants that could be grown, again, I'll leave moss poles alone, but this could be grown much larger, more trailing, but it was such a really tiny thing when I got it. Just cutting it back so it would put new growth out to fill in. But I will keep this, I guess it's not going in the bathroom. I think we're going with blue star fern that we already own, which is a nice choice too. But I'll just keep this small. It's on a top shelf. You're going to see in my living room soon. I'm almost done and ready to have you help me decorate it or watch me decorate it or something. You'll get to see it. But the green one I had was growing down the side of the shelf, probably 6 feet, and it was blocking out all of the afternoon light, and it was really kind of too much light for it. This one's doing really well in a south window. Pull the shears in the change of spring to summer when the sun is still low enough to give some pretty harsh lighting. But when the leaves come out and the sun goes up, we have a canopy of mature trees outside. So it's a good spot for it. I think this is absolutely beautiful. And that's it. That's the message of the video. Make this hobby about the only person that counts, you. What's going to make you happy? What'll make you content with your collection, most importantly? What are you going to be engaged with, sparks your creativity? What are you going to be motivated to take care of? Those are the plants that are going to grow best for you, the ones you'll pay attention to. I find myself in some of my really large, my moss pole, not wanting to deal with it. Now I do it, but I don't find it fun at all. Whereas looking after a lot of these smaller plants, I really, really enjoy. I hope you've enjoyed this one. Come and see me again in the next one real soon, okay? Bye-bye.